In today's video, we're going to do a 2-soup wild rice special. I'm making 2 soups 2 weeks in a row. Number one, because it is almost the end of soup season. Springtime is almost here, and it'll be too warm for soup pretty soon. The second reason is because I wanted to try out some different ways of making a wild rice soup. You'll notice between this week's soup and next week's soup, there are a fair number of similarities. Starting with today, with our wild rice salmon soup. Now for this recipe, there are a couple things that you need to do beforehand. First, wash and rinse 4 stalks of celery, then chop them finely into about a 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch pieces. Next, take about 8 ounces of mushrooms, either the pre-sliced or you can slice them into even sizes yourself, and rinse them off on the sink. Next, you can cook a pack of bacon. I like to place it on a cookie tray covered in parchment paper. You'll need about 6 or 7 of these, but you can eat the rest of them while you're cooking or save them for later. That bacon you can cook at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes in the oven, and then crumble them into small pieces. Next, we'll cook a pound of salmon. Give the salmon a good rinse, and then place it on the tray and cook it in the oven for 30 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we'll flake the salmon and place it in a bowl and set that aside. Next, you'll cook a cup of wild rice and a 1.5 cups of water. Now that all our prep work is in place, we can get to making the soup. And to begin today's video, we're going to run through all the ingredients that you'll need for this recipe. For this recipe, you will need 1 pound of cooked and flaked salmon, 6 to 7 cooked pieces of bacon crumbled, 3 to 4 stalks of finely chopped celery, 8 ounces of white or baby bella mushrooms, 1 cup of heavy cream, 6 cups of chicken broth, a 1/2 teaspoon of mustard, 1/4 teaspoon of rosemary, and a cup of cooked wild rice. You'll also need a large pot for the stove, a set of measuring spoons, a large mixing spoon, and a pair of measuring cups. To start off, we're going to take our vegetables as well as our 2 spices over to the stove along with our large pot. On your way to the stove, you can also grab one of your measuring cups and fill it up with a bit of water. So to start things off, we're going to dump our mushrooms and our celery into the pot. Add a little bit of water for the vegetables to cook in, and turn the stove on to a mid to low heat. Once your vegetables have cooked, go ahead and add those spices. We'll add our 1/2 teaspoon of mustard, and our 1/4 teaspoon of rosemary. Once you've given these a good stir, go ahead and grab the rest of your ingredients and bring them over to the stove. Now to start off, let's add our 6 cups of chicken broth. Next, we'll add in our pound of salmon. And our 7 pieces of bacon. After that, we'll add in our cup of wild rice. Last of all, we'll add in a cup of heavy cream. Now I like to heat it up before adding it to the soup. So find yourself a microwave safe container and put it in there for about 1.5 minutes before you toss it in the soup. Once the soup's all together, you can turn the heat up to about a medium heat until the soup starts to boil, then turn it back down so that it's just simmering. Once you turn the heat back down and get the soup back to simmering, you'll notice that there's this film on top of the soup. Now this next step is optional. You may just decide that this is the end of the soup and you're ready to serve it, but optionally you can take your spoon and just skim the top layer of fat off. The reason I like to skim a little bit of it off is because there's not much flavor in there. But again, this is an optional step and you can make the soup how you like. By the way, once that's done, you can turn our stove off and our soup is ready to serve. And here we have our finished salmon wild rice soup. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you enjoy making and tasting this delicious soup. If you'd like to see how easy it is to modify this soup into something brand new but fairly familiar, check out next week's video on how to make a chicken and zucchini wild rice soup. Otherwise, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video. Totally. Making a mess. Well, we'll see you next time.